Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Ernie. Before you start, I have some regards for you
Okay.
from Amos Dunst.
Okay. Where did you see Amos?
He's here for 3 days. He just came because he wanted to see the Kever Avimite, so that's why. And,
Okay.
he's on his way back. But I saw
George,
him for lunch.
look at this. That's Mike Suba. Amos did that.
Wow. You know what he's doing now, Ernie? Amazing. He's had some health issues. So one of the rabbins told him that what he needs to do is he has to start writing a Sefer Torah. So he's writing a Sefer Torah. He's about halfway done.
Wow.
Pretty
He was a great artist, Amos.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know if you remember. He actually went to Guatemala with me.
Really?
2 people went to Guatemala with me.
Who else?
Norm Nadell.
So this was in high school or after high
This is
school?
in high school, of course, in high school. 10th grade, 11th grade.
That would have been a lot of fun.
See, you missed out.
I did.
You should have.
I've been to Panama with my wife.
Oh, Guatemala's way better.
And I've been to Costa Rica.
With Norman, I actually took him with my cousins, Tommy and Roberto.
Yeah,
we actually went all the way up to Tikal and hiked around all of that eons ago.
Okay.
Anyway,
we'll
let's learn some Gemara.
Okay. So we're on Ayin Vav, Amid Beis, 76.
Mokim Labi.
Mukim La Belavia Bas Yisrael. Because when we said that you have to check going back a number of generations, how come there were more generations that we had to check? So the Brisa said it's a case of a Levia and a Bas Yisrael where we said you have to add 1 generation. So the Gemara says, Elamas Nisa, name a plea. Our Mishnah didn't go back so much. So you tell me the Mishnah argues? Lo, my Orachas Zugachas. It doesn't mean 1 generation. It just means 2 other mothers from each side. Shtei imos, but not more generations. This business that we learned yesterday, that when you marry into a family, you have to check their yichus, going back so many generations, that's Rav Meir. All families are becheskes kashrus, and you don't have to do bedika. And in fact, that's the halacha that the Rambam brings. Kol mishpachos becheskes kashrus hein, umuter laseis mehen lechatchila. Now, the Beis Shmuel brings the Ramah, who says that if it's a family that we don't know, then they're not becheskes kashrus and they need a bedika. However, the Achronim don't paskin like that, and we are lenient, and therefore we don't do bedikas when somebody shows up to get married, and the Masadi Kidushin sits down with the couple. There's no inyan of doing a bedika going backwards because of this din that kol mishpachos becheskes kashrus oimdos. So the Gemara says, "Eini, it's not so." V'amar Rav Chama bar Guri Amar Rav, Mishnasenu is kishakor alav irer. Our Mishnah that said there was a bedika, that's only if there's a rumor that goes around about the yichus of that mishpacha. But if there's no error, even Rav Meir holds that families are becheskes kashrus. So the Gemara says, "Man de masniha lo masniha." The one who learned the B'Shem Rav that we just said didn't learn our Mishnah. Zudi Rav Meir. Regular families have a chazaka of kashrus. Amar Rav Chama bar Guri Amar Rav, imkara alav ir. But if there is a rumor, so tzarich livdak achra, then you have to do a bedika. Then the Mishnah said, "Ein boitkin min hamizbeach ulamalo." You don't, if a family was a kohen that he was doing the avodah on the mizbeach, so in the Lishka Gozis, which was the office where the Sanhedrin sat, one of their purposes was to evaluate everybody's yichus. They wouldn't let you do the avodah unless you had proper yichus. My time, he loved batkul of maskile. If it wasn't for the fact that he had been investigated regarding his yichus, they wouldn't have allowed him to do the avodah. Similarly, for a Levi, lo menaduchin olamalo, when they went up to the stage to sing, the same thing. My time, Hashomer Mar. Sheshama you yoshvim yachsa kunim yachsa levia in the Lishka Gozis, where the Sanhedrin sat. One of their functions was to make sure that the yichus was okay. Then velomi Sanhedrin olomala, if the family had been in the Sanhedrin, then we assume that their yichus is good. Why? The Tanur of Yosef Kashem Shebezdin Menukim B'Tzedek Kach Menukim B'Chomu.
Why can a mamzer not serve on the Sanhedrin?
Good, Kenny. Hang on, hold on. Just like a Bezdin is clean regarding tzidkus, they're cleaning regarding mumim. They don't have a pagam of yichus. Amar Meimah Mikra, it says in Shir HaShirim, Kulach Yafa Rayati Umum Ein Bach, referring to the Sanhedrin. So the Gemara says maybe Ein Mum Mamish. Maybe it refers to a physical mum, not a mum of yichus. Amar Vacha Bar Yaakov, we don't need a pasuk for that. Amar Kra, when it says that when Moshe Rabbeinu said this is too great for me, and he was told to pick 70 zakenim, it says V'yisyatzu sham imach b'doyim lach. They have to be similar to you. They have to be shleimus haguf, like Moshe Rabbeinu. So from there you know that the Sanhedrin can't have a mum shabaguf. So the Gemara says that's not a good raya. Dilma, there mishum shchina. There was Ashrosh Shechina on the Sanhedrin, but maybe a regular dayan doesn't need that. The Sanhedrin should make your life easier, but similar to you without a goof. And then we're gonna deal with what Kenny asked. But there is a famous story that Rav Moshe Feinstein, when he was alive, at what point he had some kind of cardiac arrhythmia, and they were going to do a pacemaker. And he cleared the sugya, is having a pacemaker put in, are you considered a balmum? Because he cleared, well, if Eliyahu Navi comes tomorrow, he says it's likely he might be considered to be one of the Chachamim to be on the Sanhedrin. And he didn't want to have a mum, which might disqualify him from sitting on the Sanhedrin. I think that's a very, very interesting story. Then it says, whoever was appointed to be an officer, you could marry him to a Kohen. That what you can't appoint a shoter from a posel family for a minu. Hakol ksherim lodun dine moinos. Anybody, no matter what their yichus, could adjudicate monetary matters. They not called kshein lodin din nefashos. But you can't. But not everybody can do capital crimes. Vavinam ba'av kol asui mai. Amar Ravina lasui mamzer. That a mamzer is kosher to dine mamanos. So, by the way, a beis din is not allowed to have a ger. That's possible. But if one of them is a mamzer,
So if Talia, Shemaiah and Avtalia were not on the base din,
well, one of them was
one of them was the off base din. So
one
that
of them
can't
is
be.
the nasi, and one of them was the av beis din.
Right. So you see, and they were gearing.
I'm reading the Rambam. Beis din shel shloisha, shaya echad mehem ger harei ze posel. Aval im haya echad mehem mamzer, or afilu shloisha mamzer harei elu ksherim lodu.
But you're not talking about Sanhedrin, you're just talking about based on Shloisha.
To be a Kal Chomer.
The kavachoy Allah has kama v'kama.
That's what we're assuming. But if, like Kenny said, he was a ger and he was in the Sanhedrin, no? That's what you said, Kenny?
Yeah.
Well,
He was
if
the
you
off
how
base
can
din.
that be?
He was
If
the
you
off base
can't
din.
serve on a base din,
Amazing.
you can't serve on a base din.
One was the Nasi and one, or something like that. One was the head of the yeshiva and one was the head of the court.
So maybe he was the nasi. Well, they were both carrying. They were
They were
both
both carrying.
okay.
Nope.
Kasha, Tzarechiyun. But a mamzer cannot serve on a base din of capital crimes.
Dinin Nefashos. Why not? We know the difference.
These are psukim, right? Like we just said, imcha, like you.
So it's a Gezeres HaKasel.
So then it says, Amar Abaya, that the issue about the shoitrim is B'Yerushalayim. There they were medagdek more, but a regular shoter could be possible. V'chein ten Rav Shem ben Zerah Kidushin DAf Levi B'Yerushalayim. Gabait stoka masin lekuhuna. Same thing, you have to have good yichus. My timer. Even the man subade inchi, people fight with the gabait stock. Shamar mar mashkinin al stock. Let's say somebody pledged stock and they didn't pay up, so you're allowed to go to their house and take collateral, and people are going to get upset with them. Afilu be'erev Shabbos, the misa deika. If it was some psul mishpacha, islay kala, people would know about it. They would call them names when they fight. So therefore, they had to have good yichus. Ushbezichna de Ravada Barava Giyurava. The innkeeper of Ravada Barava was a ger, or his achsanya, the person who hosted him, Havakumansi ihu. He was like he would fight with people. Rav Bibi, Maramar Ana Vidnes Ruta de Mosa. One of them said, "I'm going to be like the mayor of the city." Umar of the Ana Vidnes Ruta de Mosa. I'm going to be the mayor of the city. Also coming Rav Yosef. So they went to Rav Yosef. Amalu Tanina. Some Tatsim Alecha Melech Mikervachecha. Any appointment, has to be a full-fledged Jew, not a ger. Anyone who's going to have srora, leadership.
So it's lav dafka melech. It's anybody in charge.
Anybody in charge, like a president of a shul, not malchus. Any mamuna.
Okay.
The Rambam says, Ein mamidi melech Yisrael mikal geri. Ad shetei imo Yisrael. If the mother was Jewish, it's fine.
Then they're not.
Says the
They're not a
Rambam.
ger.
Says the Rambam. Lo lemalchus bilvad el lekol srosh b'Yisrael. Lo dayin v'lo nasi af lo sar batzava o afilu mamuna al chalukas hamayim. It was somebody responsible to divvy up the water. Tzarech lios miYisrael. L'fachot shetei imo miYisrael. If the father was a ger, so that could explain Shmaya v'Avtalyoin. It doesn't say Shmaya v'Avtalyoin themselves were Gerim. They were from Mishpachas Gerim. And perhaps their mother was miYisrael. The father was a ger. Could be even the grandfathers. It doesn't say Shmaya v'Avtalyoin. It says they were from Gerim. Right? It says from Sancheriv, I think. The Gemara says. It tells us who was. Later on, where Onkelos was also from Vespasian or Titus. Onkelos Hager was also from royalty. But Onkelos, I'm not sure Onkelos himself was a ger. He was from a Mishpachos Gerim. And if his mother, Onkelos wasn't Sura, Onkelos was just a Talmid Chacham. Okay. So Rav Bibi the Gavar Rabbah.
I think that Onkelos definitely. I was a nephew of his. I don't know, one of them.
Yeah. He was descended.
No, he was a nephew. I was very close to the same time and afterwards, and I think that definitely was Magayer. I mean, I don't know.
Because we call him
We
Onkelos.
say Onkelos
We say
Hager.
Onkelos Hager.
Yeah, they wouldn't call him that. They didn't
But
say
he wasn't-
Shmaya. They didn't
but
say
he didn't-
Shmaya and Avtalion there. You know.
No, but he didn't have Srora, Onkelos. Onkelos was just a big Talmid Chacham who wrote the Targum.
Right. So
That's not a Mesima. That's not a Mesima, is someone who has power over other Jews.
Wikipedia says he was a convert.
Onkelos.
Yeah.
Because we say Onkelos Hager. Okay.
Yeah.
But he was descended from Romans. Okay, Rav Bibi the Gavar Rabbah, Hula Ayin B'Mili Dishmaya. So Rav Bibi, who was a Gadol B'Torah, he will deal with the city issues that have to do with mitzvahs. Umar, this ger, who was the Achsanya of Ravada Barava, La'ayin B'Mili Dishmaya, he would deal with city matters. Amr Abaya, Hilkach Man Demashri Tzur Min Rabbanim Bush Pizichna. Somebody who has a Talmid Chacham as a guest. You should have a big Talmid Chacham Ravada Ba'ava who will adjudicate well on behalf of the host. Because of Ravada staying as a guest at this guy's house, he got him a big position. Rav Zera Metapel Behu, Rav Zera would help Gerim and give them jobs. And Rabbi Ravu also Metapel Behu. But in Eretz Yisrael, they wouldn't give them any jobs, even to be like the dog catcher. Even to be in charge of irrigation. The other one, Mukmi Minayu Kuri, is the weights and measures. So whoever's in charge of weights and measures or irrigation, water, it has to be full-fledged Jews. Rabbi Yossi Omer Af Mi Shahaya Chosum Be'ercha Yishon Shol Tzipoiri. If somebody was in the court in Tzipoiri, his yichus was good. My timer. Daika Mechasmei, they had to be careful about the Eidim and then sign them. So he had to be a Vadar kosher person. Then Rav Chanina ben Antugnis Oimer, even who was in the army and had to have good yichus. And Kenny yesterday asked, what does that accomplish? The army of David HaMelech were miyuchas. Rav Yosef Mikra, where do we see a pasuk? It says V'Yachsam b'tzva milchama yichus. that the army of David was miyachis. Afraid to come over time of mine. Why did they have to be bala yichus? Listen, if you come from a good family, you have good avois, you have good avois, and you have schus avois, and in war you need all the schusim that you could have.
But you see that by Abraham Avinu, because when he was going to fight, he took 318 people with him when he went to fight all the 5 kings.
Yes.
And there's a midrash that says there what that, but basically he checked everybody's yichus, and the only one he found was Eliezer.
But Eliezer was an Eved.
It was an Eved, but Eliezer, if you add up the numbers, comes to 318.
I understand. The Medrash says it was Eliezer, not
Yeah.
318.
No, but Eliezer's number comes up to 318. He was the only tzaddik he could find, and that was the schusim.
But his yichus wasn't good. It's a steer to this approach. But
so we're learning now about David HaMelech that you had to have yichus to go in David HaMelech's army.
correct.
So right, you had to be
So Eliezer wouldn't have qualified.
Yeah, but you see that's good for shidduchim. If you went to David HaMelech's army, you got a good shidduch.
Right.
So can you imagine if the people today would know, hey, listen, you're going to get a good shidduch, come to the army. It's exactly the hefech. Good shidduch, they've got to stand there.
Okay. So here are some contradictions to this approach. When we learn Shmuel Beis, we mentioned Slak the Ammonite, who was one of the Giborim of David. But even if he was a ger from Ammon, we don't accept them. They can't marry. They're psul. So, and if you remember, we learned this in the Navi. Lo, the Yosef ba'Ammon, he was not an Ammonite. He lived in Ammon, but he was full-fledged Jew. Vayika Uriah Chiti, right? The Bathsheba's husband, a Hittite, right, from Chiti. Those are one of the Sheva nations. So, my lab the Asi Meches, no, the Yosef Beches, he was Jewish who lived there. Vayika Iti Hagiti from Gat. V'chite Mochanami, the Yosef Begat, that he was a Jew who lived there. Vaha, over there was a question that they used one of the crowns that belonged to an Avodah Zarah, to Bnei Ammon. And on Rav Nachman, Iti Agiti Ba'u Batla. Iti Agiti was Mavatel that Avodah Zarah. Now, who can be Mavatel in Avodah Zarah? Only a Goy.
Only the Goy.
Only a Goy. So it's clear that he was not a Jew, he was a Goy. So how can you, so you see, one of the Giborei David was not a meyuchas. Another kasha, Armi Adam Arav, Arba Meos Yeladim, Hayilol David. There were 400 young people in David's army. Kulam b'nei Yifas Toyarai. They were all given birth when people slept with a Yifash Toy. You were allowed to sleep with a beautiful woman that you captured. And this was this was before they were Magayah. So these are Goyim. Vukula mistafrim koimi. They all have this Roman haircut. Umagadlim blurius, and they had like curls, like what do you call it? Cornrows.
All right.
Which was a Goyish practice. V'kulan yoshvim b'kronya shel zav. They would sit in golden carriages, vayumalchin b'rosh gaisos, and they would be in the front of the army. V'heinein bale agrupus shel beis David. These were the mighty warriors, like Attila the Hun or Achilles. These inspired fear in the enemy, but they were all Goyim. So they were not miyuchasim. So you have two kashas, one from Iti Agiti and one from these 400. So at least we answer about the 400. They were not really in the army of David. They just brought them to make everyone afraid, but they were not listed in the army.
And maybe they were mercenaries.
They weren't listed in the army. They weren't
Could be
really
mercenaries,
part of it.
but they were paid to come and scare the people.
And they came to Avaloha Yordim B'Socha Milchama Im Yisrael. They didn't join the Jews when they actually were in battle. Okay, Ayin Zayin Amid Aleph.
One thing,
Please.